If you keep working on the self, if you keep building compassion, if you keep working with intention, you will get to where you're going.
Welcome to The Healing Blueprint. I'm your host, Jill Briansky. On this podcast, I speak with experts from traditional and holistic healing modalities. And together, we share insights, tools, and practical guidance so you can create your own healing blueprint. Let's move into today's episode and get started. On today's episode, we are meeting with Chad Davis to explore what it means to become free to choose the story you want your life to tell. So Chad, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And can you give us an idea of who you are and what you do?
Sure. For the last 15 years, I've been a dual diagnosis therapist, which means I deal with both the mental health side and the addiction side. An avid author working on trying to promote what I talk about in the rooms to the rest of the world.
You're a busy man.
It definitely keeps me on my toes, for sure.
Yeah. When people hear about therapy, often they think, okay, well, I'm just talking and we're talking and we're talking and we're talking. How does your version of therapy relate to the people that think that we're just talking and we're not just regurgitating information?
Yeah, the head shrinkers, right? Yeah, therapy has in my experience, the people that I've talked with, therapy has a very broad range of receptivity. Talking is great, and I think part of the issue is people don't understand the power of communication versus talking, right? Like reflecting back what the other person is saying so you can actually hear it, and then them actually having to think about what they're saying. It's been my experience that most people think that they think all the time because they have this voice inside their head. But the voice inside their head isn't normally thinking. It's normally the rumination state, which is emotion. So there's very little like cognitive process going on. So when you actually sit down and do therapy and you have to think about what you're saying and verbalizing it and then getting that reflected back, then there's some real process to the things that you're thinking. And, you know, the whole can't see the forest for the trees. So you have someone else that kind of points out some of the things that are not very blatant to you, but can really stand out to somebody else looking in.
How does the reflecting back or using different senses help someone create a different life story?
So we can dive into the constructed self theory right here. This is a perfect caveat for it. The person that we think we are isn't who you actually are, right? Like that story was imposed to us, conditioned to us. A lot of it was created in survival to make it through certain areas of life or certain time periods of life or certain periods of life. And then we just, by default, because of how our brain works, we think that that's us. And until someone else can reflect back, hey, that's not quite what I see. I see this very powerful, very intelligent, very driven, very motivated individual sitting in front of me. Then you can actually start questioning their validity and understanding of, maybe I don't have to be the story that I've always been. Maybe I can create my own story.
And how would somebody go about doing that?
Painstakingly slow in some cases, and with a lot of compassion. That's one of the things I lean into very heavily is people beat themselves up, right? Like they're like, oh my God, I'm doing this again. I'm still doing this. And I'm like, stop. Like you don't have a choice, right? Like so many people don't understand what it really means to, you're on autopilot 90 to 95% of your day, which means you're not actually thinking about what you're thinking about. So to beat yourself up for thoughts that you're not even generating just doesn't make any sense if you actually think about it that way. And you can't change that which you're not aware of. So literally the whole forest for the trees idea, you can't beat yourself up for a class that you've never taken, right? That's like walking into biochemistry and being upset with yourself because you failed the final. You're like, well, you haven't taken the class yet. Why would you beat yourself up for not knowing what you don't know yet? And if you don't know how to change, and if you don't know the things that are in your way, and if you're not aware that it was even a thing to begin with, like, there should be a lot of compassion to, okay, well, I now understand where I am, looking at things I don't necessarily want to be all of this. And now that I know I can be something else, then very compassionately just start chipping away at the old while you're building the new.
Compassion is such an interesting word in today's society because, as I'm sure you're aware, most of us are not taught how to be compassionate towards ourselves or kind to ourselves. And you're bringing up a concept to someone that, as you're saying, they don't really know how to do this. It's not part of the construct that they grew up in or the construct that they're holding or the story that they have. So as great as it is to say, let's bring in compassion, how do you teach someone to bring in compassion for themselves when they don't currently have it?
Well, that is part of the long, painstaking process. And I guess that is why it takes so long, right? Because you have to heal the body. That's what I start with first with everybody I start talking to, the 4 pillars of health. Teach them how to feel in love again, if that's not something that they currently do, which most don't, right? Like that's the whole, oh, love thy neighbor, like in the Bible, right? Love your enemy, love your neighbor. But like, how many people actually love themselves? So how are you supposed to love someone else if you don't even know what that feels like, right? So yeah, you're building the capacity to improve. You're building the new language structure. You're building the new identity. You're healing the body, and and trying to understand that, much like walking into the gym and walking on the treadmill once, it's not going to just happen overnight, right? Like the consistency and the intention is the process, and then just have faith in the process that if you just keep walking on the treadmill, you will lose the weight. If you keep working on the self, if you keep building compassion, if you keep working with intention, you will get to where you're going. It already works, because you've already been conditioned to be who you are. So it's not a learning process. It is just a redoing process. Your brain and body will follow in step, but you have to get off of autopilot and start doing things more mindfully and more intentionally.
Is it fair to say it's an unlearning process?
Yes. One of my favorite people that I listen to is Peter Crone. And one of the things he talks about is, I don't solve problems, I help dissolve problems. And that is exactly my same framework. I can't give you something you don't already have, but I can help you remove something that isn't actually there.
What if someone came to you and you said, this is going to be a process and you have to trust the process. And they're like, well, I've done this before and I've trusted the process and the process hasn't worked. And they have all this negativity towards going into your process.
That is daily. That is something I deal with every new patient that I come in contact with. And the only thing I can say is, after about 20 minutes of talking, I simply ask, do I sound like the people that you've talked with before? And the answer is always unequivocally no. And I was like, well, then I'm bringing something new. I'm bringing a new approach. This is what I do. Like, how many other therapists have you talked to that have 17 published books on how to do what I'm talking about? How many, do the stuff that, like, I do the work with them. I do the breath work with them. I do the mantras and stuff with them. I was like, I am a product of this. I know it works because I practice it daily. And most of them talk about, like, they feel the difference. Like, they can hear the sincerity. They feel the compassion in the conversation. And that's what buys in that initial trust to at least give me a chance. And then as they start feeling differences, they're like, maybe this can work. And then it just builds from there. But I get that initial pushback with everybody I talk with. I've talked to 12 other therapists. Why is this going to be different? Yeah.
Right. Well, you have a different lens,
Yeah.
and you created this theory, this constructed self theory. and it works for you,
Yes.
and you found that it works for other people. And I'm wondering if you embodying your own narrative and your own worth and compassion towards self gives the person who's with you an idea or a feeling of what it's like to be in the presence of what they are becoming.
100%. I actually had this conversation with my brother several years ago. He's a PA, and he was talking about, he's like, you seem to have a really good impact on your patients. He's like, do you think it's you, or do you think it's your approach? And I said, I think it's a little both, right? Like, I definitely show up differently. I'm a personal trainer of 20 plus years, so I bring a lot of energy to the table. I brought a lot of fitness, nutrition, body work. We are mind and body, right? Like, intimately and reciprocally. So they need to both move along, so they feel that, they feel my energy, they feel the mirror of just being a trainer. And then all of the knowledge that comes with the bachelor's, the master's, the PsyD, all the research for all the books. And each book was a a reconstruction of my own process. Like, I'm constantly doing work on me. And when I would hit one of those epiphany, aha, life shifting moments, I'm like, I need to reverse engineer this so I can teach other people to do what I just did. And then it just kept leveling and leveling and leveling to, I don't know how many people actually understand it, but I've reached a state on 11/22 of 25 of no mind, meaning that my inner default mode network, that little chattering voice, doesn't exist. And that's normally you have to go to a mountaintop and, meditate for hours and fasting and all that good jazz. And I did those things, but I did them after divorce. So I had lots of quiet time and lots of free time and lots of inner work to process with that. Wrote the book, The Neuroscience of Love and Heartbreak, during that for my own processing. And yeah, so I guess part of what they feel is there is zero doubt to what I say. Like, it's not theory. It's not just out of the book. It's not just something that I've read about some monk or guru or seer or shaman somewhere that says this is possible, but like, I've done it. And I have a language that synthesizes the neuroscience, the psychology, and the applied application of it, and the compassion and patience to continue to re-say it in different ways until it finally clicks on their side.
I would argue that you doing this process not on the mountaintop is more challenging and more integrated than someone that is on the mountaintop without any distractions. To clear your mind in a space that is full of chatter is not an easy task.
I would agree. I have said many times, even to patients, I'm like, yeah, like, doing everything that I talk about would be 100 times easier if you lived on a Buddhist monastery or some type of retreat, right? Like some island somewhere where no one was bothering you and you didn't have the stress of life and you didn't have to go in and see the boss or the coworker that triggers you. Be like, yeah, it's 1,000 times easier, but it can be done in a downtown setting. Going to work 5 days a week, going to school, researching, studying, people, places, things. Like, it can be done. I know it can be done because I've achieved it. So it's a real thing. And I think it's that authenticity that helps me reach those people, along with my past that I always start with to help build some hope. People see me today and they're like, well, what do you know about suffering? Until I share the sexual abuse as a kid, the abusive alcoholic father as a kid, the mother's attempted suicide as a kid, 16 different schools as a kid, homelessness as a kid, like all these things that, like, statistically, like in our field, I'm drawing a blank on the name of the scale, but like, I max that scale. I should be a statistic or dead based on that scale. I've never had professional help. It's always been my own process on getting out. And yeah, so they see me with that story and they're like, well, you seem like kind of a normal dude. So if you can do it, maybe I can do it. And I'm like, that's my point. Right? Like, I'm not walking on water. And if I can do it, you can definitely do it.
What is your motivator then? If you haven't asked other people for help and support along your way, and you've been driven to do this on your own. What is that motivation that drove you to understand what was happening with you and overcome what is happening to you?
This is in my first book, The 12 Steps 2.0. I wanted to be a samurai, right? Like the samurai is the ultimate executive protector, the master of balance, right? Like the literal poet and the warrior, the student and the teacher. And it was that philosophy that I was chasing down that started my path. That was the last time I was homeless. I was literally reading a book in the back of my blazer next to a river. And the idea just clicked. I'm like, oh, yeah, I should follow the samurai, right? Like I need to, and I knew nothing about them as far as their study and research and what they believe. And that got me into researching Buddhism and Taoism, which led into Stoicism, which led into the yogic and Vedic teachings. And the more I dug, the thirstier I got. And eventually I went to school, and that just opened a voracious appetite for more. Psychology led into neuropsychology and neuroscience, and it's all stovepiped in education, but I was synthesizing it, right? Like I've studied this and then this, and I'm like, I see where they blend. I see where they overlay. And that's where the constructed self theory came into play. It's a synthesis of about 18 known developmental theories, but they are structured together instead of this is one theory and this is a theory and this is a theory. They're all supporting. And if you take a step back and really look at it, you see the puzzle, right? Like you see the forest for all the trees. And it's also kind of how I process life. That's just something that I've been easy to see systems within systems and how they help each other. So when I got into psychology and neuropsychology and neuroscience, everything just made sense. Things linked together, spirituality and science and religion, and it just all blended together for me. And I was like, let's just put this into ways people understand and quit stovepiping it.
It sounds like you have a lot of tools in your toolbox to help people. Everyone being so individualized, you're saying that they come and every day you generally have this conversation where people don't know why you're different until, 20 minutes into your conversation, or they could feel the difference. Does everyone get the same toolbox?
Very good question. No. And that's probably 5 years ago, 4 years ago. It's changed recently. I used to call what I did belief systems therapy, because my brother was asking during that conversation, he's like, what do you do? And I'm like, I don't know. I talk to them. But that's what I do, is I talk to them. Right. I'd never tried to verbalize my process. And it was actually much more difficult than I thought. That is one of my books. I have the second book I published was on my belief systems therapy, but the person in front of me gets whatever they resonate with, right? Like if you're a Christian, then we're going to talk about Christianity and Christian mysticism. If you don't have a specific, then I'm going to offer Buddhism and Taoism and Stoicism. If you're very somatic based, I'm going to teach the yogic and Vedic approaches. The only thing that everybody gets is the 4 pillars of health, right? From functional medicine, which is move well, eat well, sleep well, relax well, because you have to have a healthy body to have a healthy mind. And that's where we start, right? No matter, I don't care what your diagnosis is. I don't care what your past is. All of that we will get into. Day one is, how do we start helping your body get healthy? How do we start helping your sleep improve? How do we start getting your circadian rhythm in alignment, right? Like, let's heal you and then see if you even have anxiety, right? Maybe you're depressed because your body's falling apart. Maybe if we heal your body, you won't even have depression. And that's oftentimes the case. Once their body gets healed and they're moving around in life again and they're taking care of themselves again, and that's supporting their self-efficacy and self-determination and inner locus of control, all of a sudden the quote-unquote mental illnesses just fade.
Let's jump into diagnoses for just a second. You deal with dual diagnoses, so mental health and substance. Are there any people that you wouldn't work with or that this system hasn't been a good fit for?
No, I've worked with people in just couples therapy, clear up to people who suffer from schizophrenia and active addiction out in the streets, like literally having sessions under a bridge next to a train tracks, or at the homeless shelter that they're currently staying at when you can find them. That actually taught me the most about helping people and showing up and what real help is and what those levels look like depending on where they are. But no, there's no one that I wouldn't work with, but the same rules apply, right? Meet them where they are, start healing their body, and then during that process, you're building the trust, and then hopefully they start applying the things that you talk about. The diagnosis itself is not super important to me because I'm not looking for system or symptom management. I'm looking for why. Why do you even have anxiety to begin with? Why do you have depression? There's so many people that I talked to in the beginning, and because they've been in the systems for a while, because they're on medications and stuff, we're talking and they're like, it'd be great, doc, if I could, just get some better coping skills or some better strategies or, some different ways to think about it. And I'm like, well, I can give you those, but if you want, we can try to just get rid of the anxiety. And they're like, we can do that? And I'm like, well, that's my goal. But it's such a shock to them to even hear that, oh, you mean I don't have to just manage this for the rest of my life? And I'm like, there's a reason you started it, right? You didn't have this at 12. Let's see if we can get rid of it, not just manage it.
So you're helping people step out of the box that our society has created for them.
Yes, I hate diagnosis.
I'm actually with you on that. I don't like them either.
Yeah, no, I hate it.
Wait, you said something interesting that I just want to go back to for a second, and I'm going to try to tie this together in my brain. So let's see if this makes sense as it's coming out.
Sure.
You had said at the beginning that it's not a thinking problem, it's a communication problem. And then just a few minutes ago, you said that you also work with couples, and I find that very fascinating. Is it this communication piece that allows you to do that, or I don't know. I'm just trying to connect dots in my brain.
Sure. So with the couples, I apply the same concepts and on the micro and macro, right? Like, so as the couple, if you can rebuild their communication, that's like, then they can solve their own problems. So you're trying to help them work through what stopped the communication, help them understand that communication is the key if they really want to move forward, while also helping each one defragment themselves because they've become angry, they've become resentful, they're building their own stress. They've lost compassion for the other, which means they've probably also lost compassion for themselves. So you're not just working with the dynamic of their own communication, but you're helping them be a healthier, happier version of themselves, which will obviously help them cohabitate with someone else, right? Like if they're not already cranky and whatever, it's much easier to communicate with somebody who's challenging.
And this idea that you reach people where they are, whether they're coming to see you or whether you're going to visit them under a bridge. Mm-hmm. What motivates you to do that?
That's a good question, and I struggle with it daily. I really do. There's a part of me that wants to save the world, right? Like I would not have published all these books. I'm in 2 more right now. Like hopefully by the end of summer, I'll have 19 published. I really want to help, and I understand that perhaps some of the people that I'm writing for aren't even born yet, because some of current society would probably never pick up the book, and I'm okay with that. And the other part of me is for the exact same reason. like, why am I trying to help so many people that don't even seem to care? So it is a true split, almost a Jekyll and Hyde. Like I wanna help and cure and heal, and the other is on any given day I could toss the match over my shoulder and head to the mountains and have an adult beverage and make s'mores and just watch it all burn down. And it just depends on the day that you catch me on that for society. part of the reason I maintain it despite that is because I love it. I read textbooks for fun. My research puts me in flow state. Like I enjoy the process of learning, and the more I learn, the more I know, the more I'm able to help the person that's sitting in front of me. So it's kind of self-supportive in that way.
Yeah. And then it's a cycle. It fuels you because you're helping other people. So you get re-energized as you give out more energy.
Yes, 1,000%. Right. It's like the perfect storm, but in a very positive way. And that's ironically, that's what I try to create in the people in front of me, right? Like if we can get you to eat well or sleep well, then you might have the energy to move well. And if you move well, then you might sleep better. And if you're sleeping better and moving better, then you're dropping some stress, which will also help you sleep better and move better tomorrow, because it's all reinforcing in a positive way. So it's very much so the same in my own life. And I mitigate myself through a very avid process of working out 6 days a week, throttle therapy on my motorcycle, wilderness therapy. I fly on the weekends. So I dump as much stress as possible as well, plus all the daily breathing and mantras and all that good jazz. But I still battle and on a regular basis of, do I really want to do all this? Like, it's the random. I actually got an email the other day from somebody, don't know them, just reading my work, and they're like, "Man, your writing was very inspirational. It helped me in the moment, and I'm sure you're helping lots and lots of people out there." It's those emails or those comments, those patients that are like, "Thank you for saving my life," right? Those are the reasons I continued, for sure.
Any final thoughts or words of encouragement for your listeners?
Sure. If I can do this without supports, I promise you can do this with support. Find what resonates with you. It doesn't have to be anything, right? Like, just like we were just talking about, like you can lean into Christianity. You can lean into any other religion. You can lean into Buddhism, Taoism, Stoicism, the Vedas, the yogic teachings. They all teach the same thing. Mm-hmm. They use different vocabulary. They have different thous and thou shall nots or whatever, but like they're all trying to help people live a happier, fuller life. But the key is it's all intentional. None of it just happens because you know. None of it just happens because you're willing. None of it just happens because you understand, right? Like you do have to apply, and you have to apply on a regular basis. But it does work, I promise you.
Yeah, the action step's important. And if someone wanted to take an action step and meet with you or work with you, how can they get in touch?
I'm working on that. I'm actually building a website as we speak. The current way to reach me is at my just basic email, which is a little confusing, which is one of the reasons I need to change things. But you would just email me at life, L-I-F-E, lift, L-I-F-T, it, 0909 at Gmail. Life, lift it, 0909 at Gmail.
Great.
I'll get that.
And I will connect that down below so our listeners can reach you and just click on that.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for being here today and for this conversation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
That's a wrap for this episode. Honor what landed, release what didn't, and we'll see you next time on The Healing Blueprint.